moment while we get the recording going and get everyone hooked up. Okay, I think we have everybody. I don't see anybody in the waiting room. Oh, wait, I do see. Hang on just one moment. Okay. Sorry, I got, oh wait, still have somebody else joining. This just takes a moment. Okay, so good morning, everybody. My name is Alan Lilly, presiding hearing officer of the State Water Resource Control Board's Administrative Hearings Office. And this is the status conference we set for the City of Solvang petition to change water right permit 15878. I just want to make sure we have everyone hooked up here. Mr. Kvitstad, I'll just say on my monitor, you have a camera which is turned off, but you do not have any audio. So I don't know if there's anything you can do about that, but we're not showing an audio from you.
Good morning.
And then we also have, oh, excuse me, go ahead, if you can speak.
My computer, I'm not at my desk. I'm traveling right now. My computer doesn't have video on it, so it doesn't have audio. So I called in to see the video, but I'm using my phone for audio.
All right, and are you 805-705-6869?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll ask my staff to just put your name instead of that phone number as well. So we can, and that's fine that you're observing by video and participating by audio. It's not going to be a long conference today anyway, but it just does help us to have names associated with each tile. So we will make that change. My staff is, I don't know how they do it, but they're very good at these things. Okay, so we have not ordered a court reporter for this status conference. We are recording the status conference by Zoom teleconference and also on our YouTube live channel. We have held several prior status conferences in this matter, and I think all of you have participated, so I'm not going to repeat my description of the process. I would like to have appearances here, so I'll just go down the list. First of all, for who is appearing today for City of Solvang?
Good morning, Tilden Kim appearing on behalf of City of Solvang.
Good morning, Chelsea O'Sullivan also appearing on behalf of the City of Solvang.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Kim and Ms. O'Sullivan. And then who's here today for Alisal Guest Ranch?
Good morning, Mr. Lilly. Jessica Diaz, counsel for Alisal Guest Ranch.
Okay, I'm going to just make a note. I had Stephanie Hastings down, but it certainly is fine for you to appear today. And then who's here for Improvement District number 1?
Good morning, Mr. Lilly. Gary Kvitstad with Brownstein for ID1.
Good morning, Mr. Kvitstad.
And Elizabeth Esposito also for ID number 1.
Yes, good morning, Ms. Esposito. For NOAA Fisheries?
Hi, this is Lori Beal. I'm counsel for NOAA Fisheries.
Okay.
Darren Brumbach, NOAA Fisheries.
Okay, good morning, Ms. Beal and Mr. Brumbach. For Cal Trout?
Good morning, Maggie Hall for Caltrout.
Good morning, Ms. Hall. For the San Ynez River Water Conservation District.
Good morning, Mr. Lilly. It's Steve Torgiani for San Ynez River Water Conservation District.
Okay, and California Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Good morning, Lena Germanario for California Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Good morning, Mr. Germanario. And that's all I have on my list. Have I, oh, it looks like Mr. Evans. Are you also here for Cal Fish and Wildlife?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me today. Yeah, I'm Kyle Evans with CDFW.
Glad to have you join us. Okay. And it looks like Mr. Walsh is here for the San Ynez River Conservation District as well. Good morning, Mr. Walsh. And let me see, I think I've covered everybody, but I want to just, is there anybody I've missed? Okay, good. Does anyone have any questions about our process before we proceed? We've had so many status conferences in this matter. I think everyone's pretty familiar with the process. Okay, so I issued a status conference order on September 2, which also had a notice. Excuse me, I got to read my notes here correctly. On September 2, I issued a status conference order and notice of status conference and planned hearing schedule. And then on November 12, I issued an order on request for extension of time, which amended or potentially amended the schedule for the proposed hearing in this matter. And that was in response to a request from Solvang because they needed or requested an extra 30 days for their CEQA process. So for Ms. O'Sullivan or Mr. Kim, whichever one of you wants to speak, I would like one of you to describe Solvang's current plan and schedule for CEQA compliance and for presenting the addendum to the Solvang City Council.
Yes, good morning. I can address that. The city is currently in its internal review of a draft addendum and anticipates finishing that review and completing a final addendum in time to bring it before the City Council in early January and then submit the final addendum that's been reviewed and approved by City Council, of course, at their discretion, by on or before the February 2nd deadline that you have set in your November 12th order. Okay,
I actually think my deadline in the order was February 1st, and we're having a status conference.
Yes, February 1st.
And the only reason that that's important is we're potentially going to have a status conference on February 2nd. So I'd like to have the filing before then.
Understood. I think I just transposed them in my mind.
That's okay. And if you can get it in a few days earlier, obviously that gives everyone, including me, more time to read the documents. And
yes, we won't be waiting to file it on the 1st. We'll file it as soon as we are able after City Council's review.
Right. And I certainly understand that it's a discretionary action by the City Council, so you cannot tell us and probably don't know for sure what the City Council is going to do, but that's fine. That's the way the process works. I did have one related question. Your status reports, which I certainly appreciate, they really have been informative, and I appreciate being kept up to speed, refer to several technical memoranda, which I understand the city, that's why the city needed more time, was to prepare those. And obviously that makes sense to have technical support for the CEQA document. But assuming the City Council approves the addendum, can you also file the technical memoranda? I mean, I assume they're going to be public documents. They will ultimately be exhibits for the hearing, I assume. So if you can file them ahead of time, it just gets the process going for other parties to have opportunities to review them, and me for that matter.
Yes, so those are actually going to be and have been incorporated and will be attached as appendices to the addendum. So they will be submitted as well.
Okay, so when you say submit the addendum, that includes the appendices to the addendum.
Right, lots of.
Did I get that right?
Appendix. Maybe it's going to be called an attachment. I don't know, whatever the word is that we're using, but it will be.
Attachment might be better. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, whatever you call them. But the main thing is, I think the parties getting those will help everyone else because in the past there have been some disputes on some of these technical issues, and and obviously that's why we have a hearing, and I have no idea how that will play out. But I think getting the documents to the other parties will be helpful.
Yes.
Okay, so let me just check my notes here. My plan at this time is to go ahead and hold the status conference that is scheduled for February 2nd. And at that point, we will presumably will know what the Solvang City Council has done. And if they approve the addendum, we'll have the addendum and the technical documents. And then we can talk about going forward with a hearing schedule. I had in one of my I think the November 12 order discussed a potential schedule. We may have to make some tweaks on that. We've been getting some other complex matters assigned to my office that we have to fit into our calendar. So we will do this as soon as we can, but there may be some additional delay. I don't want to. I think this was the very first matter that was ever assigned to my office when my office was created. Now just about 2 years ago. So I want to keep this one moving. I understand there have been delays, and that's understandable, but we don't want to have any more delays. So anyway, that's my plan. I did want to say one other thing. Ms. O'Sullivan, I think your December 1st letter, one of your prior letters sent copies of a copy of the settlement agreement between Solvang, Alisal Guest Ranch, and Improvement District Number 1. And I certainly appreciate the party's efforts to resolve those issues. And your December 1st letter said there have been some subsequent settlement discussions between your office and representatives of the other parties. And I just want to say, I certainly encourage all of you to continue those discussions. We obviously do not want to be involved. We'd love to see a signed settlement agreement if you have one, but if you don't, we will go forward to the hearing. So anyway, just to say, please keep going with those discussions. If you can resolve the pending issues, that's fine. My office certainly has other things we can do if we don't need to hold a hearing in this matter. But if you cannot resolve them, we will proceed to a hearing. The one thing I think I've said before, and I do want to make clear, is I don't intend to delay the hearing schedule once we have a hearing schedule set and a notice of hearing has gone out, on the grounds that, well, we're really close to settlement. At this point, there's been plenty of time. Close isn't good enough. So if we have signed, written, I guess if it's signed, it has to be written. But if there's signed, written settlement agreements with the parties that resolve the issues and we don't need a hearing, that's fine. Otherwise, we will go forward to the hearing. So that is actually all I have to cover today. But I will go around the room, so to speak, the virtual room, and ask if any of you have any comments or questions. So if anybody has any comments or questions, can you raise your hand, either the old way or virtually, or if anyone wants to make any comments? Yes, Mr. Broomback, thank you. I wanted somebody to say something today besides me. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Lilly. It's a question for Solvang, just to hopefully go with your encouragement on continuing the discussions. And that's the intent, I think, by all parties. My question is whether or not we can expect the information that's provided February 1 or before is substantively different than what's already been provided, principally the May technical reports and memoranda. And I think it was the July 2nd reply from Solvang to NOAA Fisheries and the other parties' comments to those technical memoranda. Okay, and Mr. Brumac, first of all, thank you for asking me and not just asking her directly, since that's the best way to do this proceeding. And I will turn to Ms. O'Sullivan and say, you don't have to answer that now if you don't
want to or can't. But if you can, it certainly could help facilitate the settlement and the hearing process. So I'll turn to you and just ask you if you want to make a response to that.
Yes, I can respond to that. So
Please.
the reports that you have seen already that were filed earlier, the terrestrial biological report and the cultural resources report, and the hydrological memo from GSI, those are substantially the same. We've made some changes to address the comments, which those changes are explained in the July 2nd filing. So those, are what you understand from those filings. We've also prepared an additional technical report in response to Mr. Lilly's proposed hearing questions. And obviously the addendum is additional analysis. And some of that is also responsive to the proposed hearing questions. So there is more, but also pieces that you've seen before.
I think that's probably as good of an answer as you're going to get right now, Mr. Broomback. Thank you, Ms. O'Sullivan. And I certainly this is a work in progress. And I just want to say, at least from my point of view, I have no idea how things go when I'm not involved, but I think you've all been very professional and upfront about this. And I hope you will continue to do that and exchange information as you deem appropriate. And if you can settle issues, please go forward and do so. I mean, I know from my days as an attorney representing parties in water right matters that settlement discussions were challenging, but sometimes we were able to reach agreement and sign settlement agreements. And that was good when we could. So please keep going. And Ms. Hall, your question, your virtual hand is now up. So please go ahead.
Just one quick question, also one comment. So on the timing, I completely understand the concern not to submit a settlement proposal or settlement right at the very end. So is there a time frame that you would have in mind for us to complete those efforts so that we can either terminate discussions or submit our withdrawn protests prior to the hearing schedule?
Well, that's a good question that I wasn't ready for, but thank you. Let me just see what I've got here and see if I can answer that. I don't know if I can, but I'll try. It's a fair question. I'll just see what I can do here. Okay, my September 2nd status conference order and notice had specified March 7 of next year as the deadline for parties to file exhibits. And then the November 12 order did not specify new dates because I hadn't firmed up exactly on our calendar how they'll fit in, but I said approximately we'd delay those by approximately 30 days because at the city's request, everything was being delayed by 30 days. So roughly in the time frame of April 7th, so we'll just say early April, will probably be when the parties must file their exhibits and written proposed testimony for the hearing. So that's really, if you're going, I mean, it's really as much on the parties as on me. If you're going to settle, you really should have it done by, I'll just say early April, so that you can submit a written settlement agreement instead of submitting written proposed testimony and exhibits. So that's sort of a rough time frame, but I would say work hard. I mean, that does give you approximately 4 months, a little less than 4 months from today. And recognizing there's some holiday downtime, it gives you 3 months next year. And of course, you have to parallel track and prepare your hearing testimony, but that's the nature of the business. So anyway, that's the rough time frame I'm looking at, Ms. Hall.
Okay, great. So the March hearing dates, I thought those were all still on the calendar, but it sounds like everything will be bumped by approximately 30 days.
That is correct. I'll just read it here. I realize there's been a lot of paper in this matter, but the last paragraph on page 1 of my November 12 order states, the AHO will issue a new planned hearing schedule planned pre-hearing and hearing schedule for this matter after the December 16 status conference. That's today. The AHO anticipates that the planned date specified in the September 2 order for the hearing process all will be changed to be approximately 30 days later. So that's what I was trying to refer to. I don't know if I was very articulate, but so that's why I sort of moved for the exhibit submission deadline from early March to early April.
Okay, great. And I just had one quick clarification. I believe in prior status letters to the board, Caltrout has requested that any hearing be delayed until after the addendum plus a statute of limitations or litigation has run on that. And I just wanted to clarify that at this point, we're not requesting that delay. We're happy moving forward with the hearing as anticipated, whether or not there is litigation ongoing regarding the addendum.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I'm going to just make a note of that. And I'll tell you, I probably wouldn't agree anyway. And the reason, I'm not trying to be harsh here, but the reason is that, oh, there you are. You moved. All right. The reason is that that litigation can go on for years, and my very clear instructions from the 5 board members I work for are to keep water right things moving forward. I did want to make sure we had the city's CEQA addendum so we have a clear project description and at least have the city's CEQA compliance and the potential compliance by the State Water Board as a CEQA responsible agency. But if there's litigation, we'll have to recognize it, but I doubt if we would postpone the hearing for the however many years it might take for that litigation to go forward. Of course, if there is litigation and the court issues a stay and orders us not to proceed, we won't proceed. We clearly would follow the court's order, but short of that, I think we probably would go forward. And I'm sort of rambling here. You're basically saying you probably wouldn't be asking for the stay anyway, but I'm basically saying I would agree with that approach, or do agree with that approach. So, all right. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for today? Excuse me. As promised, I will try to get out a new proposed hearing schedule. And the main reason I do that, the formal notice of hearing is the formal notice of hearing, but in fairness to all of you, I think if I give you more advanced notice of the dates I'm looking at, hopefully it'll help you for your calendars and for your planning. So that's the main reason I do that. As I've said before, I was certainly on the other side, so to speak, representing parties before the State Water Board. And I know at that time, I always appreciated having advance notice. So that's why I do that. It doesn't mean we necessarily will have the hearing. Of course, if the City Council does not approve the addendum, we'd have to go in a different direction. And if there's settlements, we go in a different direction. But I think having a tentative hearing schedule probably helps us all. So that's what I'm going to try to do. It may take me a few weeks because I do have a couple of other matters that I'm trying to fit into our calendar as well. So, okay, anybody else? Yes, Mr. Kim, you've got your hand raised the old-fashioned way. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Lilly, thank you so much. So once we get the proposed revised schedule from you, would you want parties to give you any comments with any proposed revised schedule, just depending on logistics and other factors? Or do you want us to just wait until the February 2nd next status conference to address those issues and try to have the hearing schedule fit within everyone's calendars as much as possible?
No, I hope there won't be any concerns or objections. That's one of the reasons I try to give as much advance notice as I can. But yes, if anybody has any problems or, like for example, if somebody already has another trial date set or something like that, and there's a conflict, the sooner you let everyone else know, the better. So the easiest way to do that is just send an email to me with CCs to everyone on the service list, and then we'll all know. But yes, please, that's not just for you, but for anybody. If there are hard conflicts with any of the dates on the schedule, please let me know with CCs to everyone else as soon as you can.
Thank you.
Thanks, good question. Okay, anything else for today? We don't need to take more time. My editorial comment is, it sure is great we can do this by teleconference, so we didn't all have to gather in a room. Saved a lot of travel, especially for those of you who are in Seattle and Southern California for that matter. So thank you very much. Oh, just one last thing on my notes here. I've said it before, I say it at the end of every status conference. If any of you have any updates to the service list, please send them to my office. Again, the easiest way is just send them by email with copies to everyone else as soon as you know of those, because we do try as hard as we can to maintain an up-to-date service list. So one last call for any other questions or comments. And with that, I'll say thank you all very much.
Sorry.
Yes, Ms. Beal,
I
I'm sorry,
just
your hand blended in with the background. My bad.
Oh.
Please go ahead.
Well, you jogged my memory. Just wanted to mention, as we've noted on our previous filings, NOAA Fisheries, we are generally not able to access our offices frequently at this point in time. So I believe I was notified that there was some filing that was mailed from the city, that we get like 2 months later. So I would just want to emphasize that we really need everything by email. If you want to mail a copy, that's fine, but I'm probably not going to ever see it at this point in time. And if that changes, I will certainly let everyone know that.
Okay, yeah, I think we're all pretty much by email. Ms. O'Sullivan or Mr. Kim, have you sent any paper things out in this matter?
Only duplicates of what we filed electronically. So we've been electronically serving everyone and then also sending paper copies.
Okay, well, you don't have to continue to do the paper copies, but except when you get the hearing notice, you'll see I require paper copies of all the exhibits just for my own use. But Ms. Beal, we do have a backup, which I'll advise you and everyone else, and that is, as soon as we get anything, particularly when we get electronic filings, which is the way they've been coming in, which we prefer, we post those immediately as soon as we can, and my staff is very good at this, usually within a day or two, to the AHO FTP folder, which you can all access. I'm sure you've seen it before. We've provided the notice of that. So you can always check the FTP folder. There are a couple subfolders. There's a general folder for this matter, and then some subfolders within that. So you have to sort of scroll around and look for recent dates. But we try to post everything there as soon as we can. That's what will become the administrative record in this matter. So that's a good backup. Just if you think maybe you've missed something, please do that. But otherwise, everyone has been quite good at including everyone else on the CCs for the emails. Of course, I appreciate that. So thank you. Any other questions or comments before we sign off for today? All right. Well, thank you all. Everybody have a great day. And if nothing else comes up, have a pleasant holidays, and we'll all plan to talk on February 2nd, and we'll look forward to some fairly substantial filings by email from the City of Solvang before then, which of course we will post as soon as we get them. So thank you all and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.